Joe, do you want a glass of water up there?
I got some.
Okay.
I didn't want to take that. I never. Okay. Thank you. Please rise.
Please be seated. Welcome back again, members of the jury. As you recall, we're in the middle of the direct examination of the detective and shoppers.
Thank you, Judge. Detective Grosick, just to recap where we were, did you collect any specific items the second time that you were in the defendant's apartment on October the 15th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I believe you indicated that altogether you collected 5 bags, one of which was a wheelie bag, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you process those 5 bags?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do to process them?
Pictured them as I received them or collected them from the apartment, and then as I came across items within those were also photographed.
And did you come across anything of any evidentiary value in any of those 5 bags?
No, ma'am.
And what kind of items did they contain?
Personal items, video games, drink containers, electronics.
Now, you also indicated that you collected 2 pillows from the living room, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What colors were they?
One was white in color, and the other one was multi-green color.
Okay, and you also testified you collected a comforter, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what that looked like?
I believe it was like a white and blue comforter.
Okay. Now, those 3 items, 3 bedding items, did you process those?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Those 3 items, the white pillow, the green pattern pillow, and the, I believe you said it was a blue plaid comforter. Did you process those items?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do to process them?
Again, I brought them back to the prosecutor's office, pictured them as I received them and collected them. If there was anything on there, they were also tested.
And you did conduct some testing with regard to one of the pillows, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what time you left the defendant's apartment after searching it this second time on the 15th?
No, ma'am.
Was it in the evening?
Yes.
And what procedure did you follow when you left his apartment after the second search?
Again, I secured the upstairs door leading from his apartment, made sure it was locked and could not be opened. And after we descended the flight of steps, closed the ground level door, made sure that was locked and secured and could not be opened.
Did you have any difficulty doing that?
No, ma'am.
Now, later on that same day or the next day, did you have an opportunity to search through those bags of trash that you had collected from the curb back on Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you photograph that as you did it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what did you do after you took photos of all the trash?
It was repackaged up, and I contacted Detective Rose and explained to him what I discovered or what I found inside each of the trash bags.
Okay, I'm going to hand you, actually, let me ask you just a couple more questions. And I'm going to ask you to direct your attention all the way to December 16th of this year. Were you asked to, or not this year, it didn't happen yet, 2016. Were you asked to do any additional work on the case?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you asked to do?
I was asked to respond back to the original scene at 103 Cooper, apartment D, and to obtain measurements from inside, the dimensions of the inside of the apartment.
Okay, with a purpose towards creating what?
a rough sketch of, or a layout of the apartment.
Okay, and did you do both of those things?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, has the apartment previously been measured?
Yes, ma'am.
And what, do you know who measured it?
I believe Detective Sergeant Quinn from the Haddon Township Police Department.
Okay, and do you know what his status is these days?
He's retired.
Okay. So you went back and took measurements, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Ask you to take a look, if you would please, at States Exhibits 133 through and including 154. If you would just flip through those and tell me if you recognize them. With regard to items 133 through 152, did you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
Are they the photographs that you took when you searched the defendant's apartment on October the 15th of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I remove those into evidence.
Objection, Counsel. There's no objection being made.
And with regard to State's Exhibit number 153, is that a diagram that you created after measuring the defendant's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
And with regard to State's Exhibit 154, are those the measurements of the apartment that you took?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I would move 153 and 154 into evidence.
No objection. No objection being made.
Can we have the lights, please? And we are going to begin with 133. Okay, Detective Grosick, do you recognize? Do you recognize what's shown in this photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is the living room in the defendant's apartment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is the condition of it different than it was when you were there back on the 13th?
As you can see, there's a box at the bottom, taking up almost the whole bottom part of the picture, and there's items in there as if someone was packing up to leave the residence.
Okay, let's take a look at 134. Do you see additional boxes in this photograph, which is photograph of the kitchen?
Yes, to the right of the refrigerator, to the left of the stove on the ground.
Okay, and State's Exhibit number 135. This is the only bedroom in the apartment, correct?
Correct.
And the, I know you thought, what did you think the animal was, a guinea pig?
Guinea pig, I
Okay.
believe.
And were any pets or pet containers, had they been removed from the apartment in State's Exhibit number 135?
Yes, both of them.
Okay. And with regard to State's Exhibit number 136, okay, we're back in the living room here, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now you testified previously that you collected a black wheel, a bag that was on wheels, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that shown in this photograph?
Directly in the center of the photo?
Okay, and all the other bags that you collected, are they all in that pile? I see there's a blue backpack on top, looks like there's a green bag underneath.
Yeah.
Are those the bags that you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and other than photographing them, did you request to do any further processing on any of them?
No.
And why was that?
Through investigation, we had determined that the bag in question here was not the same bag, and that there was actually an individual that came forward, that to my knowledge, that was walking with the bag and took custody of the bag.
Okay, so the person that had been reported walking through the area, he was identified within a week, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Also, while we're looking at State's Exhibit number 136, you testified you collected a blue plaid comforter. Do you see that here?
Yes, it's in the upper left-hand corner of the photo.
Okay, and it's located on a plaid chair, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you also testified, I believe, that you collected 2 pillows. So I'm going to ask you to move to 137. And can you tell us what's shown here?
That's the multi-green pillow that I referenced before.
Okay, and are there additional bags located under that pillow?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you collect all of those items?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and State's Exhibit number 138, I think is a little blurry, but what are we looking at here in 138?
Just the opposite side of the pillow.
Okay, so you turned it over?
Correct.
Okay, And State's Exhibit number 139. What are we looking at in the center of this photograph?
It's everything that was removed from, oh, that was everything on the floor, I'm sorry. There's a pillow in the very center, a white pillow in the center, as well as additional bags.
Okay. So that was essentially everything that you collected in the apartment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you conduct any testing or perform any processing on the pillow, the two pillows and the plaid comforter?
Just the one pillow was processed.
Okay. Let's take a look at State's Exhibit number 140. And is this the pillow that you processed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you once again photograph both sides of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see 141? Okay, as you were photographing this pillow or at the time you collected it, or if you were examining it, did you notice any stains on the pillow?
Yeah, two areas of suspected blood were observed.
Okay, and is one down there in the lower right-hand corner?
Yes, ma'am.
And I can't see the other in that photo, but we'll go on to the next photo. Okay, now this is, what are we looking at in this picture?
It's called an L square.
Okay, what's that used for?
As you can see, there's measurements across the top and along the left-hand side. We put that on there to denote the size of the object we're trying to take a picture of.
Okay, and did you photograph the second stain that you thought you saw as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, are we looking at that with the L, what's it called again, an L square?
L scale.
Scale,
Yeah, scale.
okay. Can you zoom in on that just a little bit? I can't quite see. Is that the stain you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you think, I'm sorry, go to 143. You're on 143. Sorry, go to 144. And that's another photograph. That one's actually a little bit closer up and easier to see. What did you think that stain might be?
Some kind of bodily fluid, suspected blood.
Okay. So what did you do in order to test that?
Again, I did the Hema-6 examination for the presumption of blood.
Okay, and can you see 145? With State's Exhibit 145, how did that test turn out on both stains that you saw?
Both were negative.
Okay, and earlier when we saw the swabs that you collected from the bathroom, the color of that had changed, correct?
Correct.
And is this the color it is when you begin to test, that yellow color?
Yes, ma'am.
And then looking at State's Exhibit 146, is this the second pillow that you collected?
That's the inside of the same pillow.
Oh, okay. And did you see anything about any evidentiary value or interest to you on the inside of the pillow?
No.
And how about on 147?
No.
I know it's difficult to tell, but did you photograph each side of the pillow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, moving on. After you processed the bedding, did you then have an opportunity to search the two trash bags that you collected that Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at State's Exhibit number 148. Okay, are those the trash bags that you collected?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you cut each one open and look through it?
Yes, separately.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to take a look at State's Exhibit number 149 with regard to the first bag. Did you see anything in the trash that would lead you to believe which home this came from? Or which apartment this might have come from?
It appeared that it came from the suspects or the defendant's residence.
Okay, and what did you base that opinion on?
In the left-hand portion, just above the bag,
Okay,
is a blue and white item that was later discovered to be a diaper.
like a pull-up type diaper?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we see 150? I think we have a closer up picture of it. Yeah, there it is. Is that the item you're referring to right next to the date?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and can we look at 151? Did you cut into the second bag of trash?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to ask you to look at the contents of that second bag that would be marked as State's Exhibit number 152. In looking at the items that were contained in that second bag, I'm going to ask you to, if you need to see the picture, I can show it to you again. But the various cans and bottles that are in that trash bag, were they consistent with cans and bottles that were present in the defendant's refrigerator?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, the last two items that we moved into evidence were your diagram. Are you look for that one? You know it's separate. Maybe sideways. I think there's a way we can flip this in Adobe. If I can just have a second. so... All right, can you see that from where you're sitting, Detective?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is this a two-scale diagram?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you create those?
On a computer program on our computers at our office.
Okay, so what was the overall entire size of this apartment?
I would say approximately 25 feet wide or long by approximately 14 and a half feet
And
wide.
that's for the whole apartment, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm not going to put it up on the screen because you won't be able to read the numbers, but did you do individual measurements for each room, including windows, et cetera, and other locations?
Yes, ma'am.
And the only other question I had for you is, I would like you to, and you might need to see your measurements to do this. I want to know what the distance of the living room wall is from corner to the bedroom, if you can tell me how large that room is.
Approximately 11 feet, 8 inches wide.
Okay, thank you. Couple more questions, Detective. Is there a reason why, when you were in the apartment the first time on the 13th, was there a reason why you didn't collect the bags then?
We didn't have any knowledge of the mail,
Okay.
one, and two, there was no indication to us that it was anything other than a missing child.
Okay. And also, let me ask you just a couple more questions about that. Levine pillow. Judge, I'm going to approach the witness with what has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 157. As we did before, I'm going to ask you to identify what's contained within that brown paper.
One multi-green pillow collected during a search warrant conducted on 10/15/2000.
Okay, can you get that open? Is that the way that we can put it back in there? Thank you. Okay, yeah, can you pull out please? Okay, do you recognize that item?
Yes, ma'am.
Where have you seen it before?
I collected it from 103 Cooper, apartment D.
Okay, and did you collect it from the living room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and looking at that pillow now, is it in the same or similarly substantially the same condition as it was at the time that you collected it?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I remove that into evidence?
No objection. No objection.
Now, Detective, can you point to us with your finger where you saw those stains so we can orient ourselves? Okay. And those stains turned out not to be blood, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, based on your preliminary test. To your knowledge, either at your request or at the request of Detective Rhodes, was that pillow ever submitted for any additional testing?
No, ma'am.
And why not?
From one, the presumptive came back negative.
Okay.
That's all I can remember.
Okay. With your, go ahead, take a minute, put that back in there. Detective, if you had a person's pillow and you submitted it for some kind of testing, say skin cell testing, whose skin cells would you expect to be on that pillow?
The person that resided in that house or slept in that bed.
Now, Detective, you testified, I believe you testified, you also collected a white pillow, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And on the white pillow, you indicated other than photographing it, you did not do any processing with it, correct?
Correct.
Can you take a look at this? What we got in there? How come you didn't do any additional processing on that?
There was nothing observed on the outside.
Okay. I neglected to put an exhibit sticker on that bag because I have that pre-marked at 156 and 156 is still at my desk. So if I may, we're referring to item number 156. Okay, as you're looking at that item, do you recognize that item?
Yes, it's the other white pillow collective.
Okay, and looking at it, does it appear to be in the same condition as it was at the time that you collected it?
Yes.
And again, which room did you collect that from in the apartment?
The living room. And like the green pillow, that pillow was not submitted for any additional tests or any testing at all, correct? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Judge, if I could have just a minute, I don't think I have any more questions.
Are you offering that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I am, Judge. I removed State's Exhibit number 156.
156.
156, I removed that into evidence.
No objection to you in evidence.
I asked you this, Detective Rhodes. I'm going to be back to the trash for a minute. After you were done looking through it, did Detective Rhodes have an opportunity to look through it as well?
Yes, he came over and looked at it.
Okay, and what ultimately happened to all the trash?
It was deemed non-evidentiary and thrown out.
I don't think I have anything else, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective.
Cross.
Thank you, Detective. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for not bringing the bags of trash to the court. Really appreciate it. I want to make sure I understand your timeline right. You first arrived at this apartment at 103 Cooper Street. Did you say a little after 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock on 13th?
3 o'clock.
Okay. And you were there to execute a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
This wasn't a situation where you asked anybody if you could do the search, you went to a judge, someone swore out an affidavit, and the judge gave permission to go in and do that search, right?
I didn't do it, no, but someone else did, yes.
I know the detective did.
Correct.
Were you aware of who that was?
I believe it was Detective Pete Longo.
Okay. And were you with him when he went to the court to seek that permission?
That's
Okay. And is it fair to say you personally, and I don't know that you can speak for Detective Longo, but you personally didn't actually ask my client or any of the Creatos if you could just go in there and search, right?
Yes.
And you will agree with me that at the time you arrived at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever it was, that a search had already occurred both in that vehicle and in that apartment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's why, to a certain extent, things were disheveled, thrown around. People were looking for the little boy first and looking around both the apartment and the car, right?
Yes.
Okay. So ultimately, you find, you make some observations about 3 stains, if that's the right word. One on the door, I think that you labeled JG1, and then 2 on the floor in the bathroom, JG2 and 3, right?
Correct.
The stain on the door is not blood, right?
Correct.
Okay. When you hesitated there, you did this presumptive blood testing on it, right?
Correct.
And the presumptive blood testing will test positive for blood and potentially other stuff, but you can exclude blood if that hemostatic doesn't turn color, right?
If it doesn't turn green, the presumptive of blood being at that location is nothing.
Okay. So no blood on that first spot, JG1, right?
Correct.
The 2 spots, JG2 and JG3, were blood.
Presumptively blood, yes.
Presumptively, fair enough. But you did submit those to the lab for testing, right?
I didn't, but they were, yes.
So you brought it back, put it in the evidence locker, and then ultimately somebody brought them to the lab?
Correct.
And are you aware of what the actual result was of those blood tests?
Yes.
They came back to my client's blood, right?
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't this little boy's blood, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you photographed the inside and outside both of that apartment and that car on the 13th, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you came back and executed another warrant on that apartment on the 15th, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when Ms. Shaw asked you, I believe you said that you didn't take those wheelie bag, or that wheelie bag, it was just one, right?
Correct.
You did not take that on the 13th because you didn't know that someone had seen someone with a wheelie bag, right?
Correct.
Do you know when that individual came forward? Was that on the 14th?
It was sometime in between the first and second search warrant. I don't know the exact date and time, or exact time, but it was somewhere between the first search warrant and the application and execution of the second.
So when you went in on the 15th, did you take that wheelie bag?
The 15th, yes.
And did you do any tests on it or anything like that?
No, because after I had seized it and taken it back in between that period and when I was going to process it, we found out that the individual had come forward and they interviewed him and found out that the bag was not evidentiary.
So you were able to determine that it wasn't my client loaning a wheelie bag, it was this other gentleman, right?
Correct.
Okay. Detective, you also indicated that you saw 2 bags of trash on the curb, right?
Yes, sir.
And you searched those bags?
Yes, sir.
And there was no trash in the kitchen when you searched the house on the 13th, right?
Well, there's no trash bag in the trash can.
Fair enough. You will agree with me that that actually was trash pickup day, though, right?
Well, I don't know when Town Council's trash pickup day is.
Well, do you remember the trash truck in the township being stopped that day?
I had heard about that days later, because that's where another detective was, and that's why I had to execute the search warrant on the 13th.
Do you remember seeing other garbage out that day?
No.
Okay, but you would agree with me that there is a detective somewhere who ultimately did a search warrant on a trash truck, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're just not sure whether that was the 13th or not?
The execution, the trash truck was searched on the 13th,
Okay. Which is
the same day that I did mine.
Right. So that when you arrived there at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sorry, I keep doing that. There's 2 trash bags on the curb, right?
Correct.
This seat has been since sometime in the morning sealed off with yellow tape, right?
I believe so.
And at some point you know a trash truck in the neighborhood is searched, right?
The next day I find out about the trash truck being searched.
Right, I understand that, but it was searched on the 13th.
Correct.
So it stands to reason that the trash truck probably couldn't get past all the police cars to take, right?
Correct.
But that the 13th is trash pickup day.
Yes.
And people put their trash, I'm not trying to be smart with you,
Right.
they put their trash out in trash pickup.
Correct.
And don't always necessarily replace the bag in the kitchen trash, right?
I can't answer for that.
Sure.
Right.
Sir, you can't say when it was that the trash was taken from the kitchen to the curb, right?
No.
But ultimately, you find nothing of any evidentiary value in either of those two garbage bags, right?
Correct.
And you're pretty confident that it came from my client's apartment because there's a little boy's pull-up in there.
Yes, sir.
Sir, did you take any shoes, either from the car or from my client's apartment, work boots, anything like that?
No, sir.
Did you look for any shoes or boots or anything that would have mud on them or be wet or anything like that?
No, sir.
On the 13th, did you and to be fair, when you're there in the afternoon on the 13th, you did know the location where Brennan's body had been found, right?
I recall finding out and hearing about it, but I don't remember when I did. My assignment that day, I was coming in later in the day because of my on-call status for work. So there was a transition where the investigators, detectives were out at the scene, and I was coming in. So there was not a communication gap between us. And then when I went out there, I discovered it. Like I said, I don't know when time during the day, but yes.
Okay, so you didn't seize or process any money boots or money shoes, right?
No.
Or pants that were wet or looked damp or silty or anything like that, right?
No.
I have nothing else for you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, if I may, Judge, I only had one follow-up, and that was with regard to the testing that was performed on the stains on the floor. You indicated to defense counsel that it was the defendant's blood on the floor. Was there anyone else's blood mixed in with that, according to the lab results?
Yes, his current girlfriend at the time it was a mixture of the two.
Okay. And her name was Julia Stensky, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have anything else, Judge. Thank
Just
you.
keep briefing on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't say when that blood was left, right?
No, sir.
It wasn't, it's fair to say it wasn't fresh, like it wasn't still red, it was brown and dried?
It was dried.
Okay.
Correct.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the jury, we've reached that point in the day where we've heard a lot of testimony before you can close the court date down at this time. I know my chambers have reached out to the jurors about the possibility today of wearing the shoes for going out. Obviously, the weather precluded that from occurring. At some point in time, there is going to be a visit. I cannot tell you when that is. It's predicated by how the case proceeds. You will be advised the day before, as best we can do that. Stated case when we reach that point in the proceedings. With that being said, I'm going to wish everyone a pleasant evening today. Good news of sorts. I'm going to ask tomorrow that you report at 9:30. There's some matters that I have to take care of first thing in the morning. I will get them done, and I'm sensitive to you having to wait in the back. I'd rather make sure we get things done, let you come in a little bit later, so when you do get here, we'll be ready to go. So I would ask everybody to report promptly at 9:30 tomorrow morning. At that point in time, we'll be ready to proceed with testimony. Again, remember, I have an issue to discuss the case with any family members, other jurors that we receive on my supervisor as you wait in the morning. Don't do any independent research again for concepts or terms. There's always a curiosity people have. Maybe you want to Google something. You can't do that. At the end of the day, all the jurors have to hear the same testimony that would stand when you go into your deliberations. With that, we shall have a very pleasant evening. See everybody tomorrow.